a very quick one, just to mark the beginning of the first bit of meaningful work on the aircraft after many years of well, procrastination, frankly, and also I don't know, producing a couple of children, which is a great way of slowing down important things like building planes. I'm working my way through the ribs that I have to start with, just checking all the gussets and signing them off. That might be overkill. I just want to be sure that I've checked every one of them for their security, and I'm doing that with a relatively firm but gentle kind of tug, just with getting my fingernails underneath. I don't know if I can do this on camera, but just getting my fingernail underneath and just giving it a bit of a wiggle. You can feel if they're going to go, I think. So I'm going through them one at a time, working my way through each rib, which is quite pleasant in a way. Feels like progress. Feels like quite hard work, but it's much less hard work than it was to put these ribs together. So I should count myself lucky. Plans quite artfully strewn around. Does actually make the whole thing look a bit more like it's really going to happen. I've got various bits out at the moment. I've created a space underneath as well to hold things. These are the build tables which I put together. Another actually quite time-consuming job. They're all they all have 6 legs. Internally drilled the bottom of each of the legs, popped in a coach bolt, put a washer and a nut on it. I don't know if you can see that. So that gives me the scope, or gave me the scope, to actually adjust the length of all the legs to bring the build tables up to a level. So I made them in 2 halves. They are essentially a 2400 by 1200 sheet of 18mm ply, which is pretty much a standard sheet, and then some deep section wooden kind of stud work, if you like. Then I think these are 65 by 45 legs. Various bits of bracing underneath just to hold it together. Nothing is straight as it comes. I mean, you'd think, oh well, I'll put this long piece in and that'll keep it nice and straight, but nothing's straight. So if I sight down the 2 pieces, there's a bit of a wiggle on them, especially where the two tables meet. That's going to need a bit more adjustment just to get it right. What I'm going to have to do, just move that soft stroke rag out of the way. What I'm going to have to do is I've got various fixing points along each of the sheets. I think I'm going to pop. I've got a massive collection of washers. I'm going to pop washers underneath those fixing points to shim up the material where it's needed. Because I can see on this one, it may not be obvious on the video, but there's a bit of a dish on that. I mean, it's an aeroplane, so we need to be really accurate with it. But at the same time, it's going to be handmade. So I mean, I think personally, I'm looking for a tolerance of 1 millimetre, maybe. I don't really have any means of firing a laser along that to see how accurate it is, but I think the eyeing it up actually does give you a good impression of whether something's actually flat or not. I may be overcooking this a little bit or worrying too much, but if I don't start off building on something that's flat, then I don't really stand a chance of I don't feel like I stand a chance of really building something that's straight, and I don't want it to be. I don't want an aircraft that kind of flies around in circles. So yeah, so those are the build tables. They represented quite a lot of work. I don't know if I've already said this, but the problem with having build tables is that they turn into tables essentially, and stuff starts to accumulate like bits of future solar panels and old socks. That's a rag really, but yeah. So I need to address that. What helps is to fill the table up with bits of aeroplane. Then at least it's doing the job that it was intended to do, in a sense. Just a quick look around the rest of the workshop. This is the other room. This is, let's call this the fabrication area. Bandsaw, pillar drill, workbench. I've got my woodworking vise and a metalworking vise. Computer for googling. Desk for resting my head on. Not enough storage for bits. Amplifier for music. Speakers on the ceiling. So this part of this video, I suppose, is to celebrate the fact that, subject to some advisories, if you like, this workshop has been signed off as fit for purpose by my inspector, which is great. I was a bit worried about it, in a way. I may be a little bit hard on myself. It's pretty tidy now. It helped me to tidy it up actually, to have that. Oh, and I've got a tool board there with all my various bits and pieces on it. That's probably going to have to grow as more and more tools are what's the word? Accumulated, I suppose. Accumulated. That door is to the outside if there wasn't a huge pile of soil up behind it, but that is going to be dealt with in due course. It lacks meaningful insulation. There's also a bit of an issue at the back wall with an amount of water ingress and a certain amount of vegetation ingress. Really needs to be dealt with, but that did really have to wait until the internals were in better shape. They're not in good shape, but they're better than they were. This was when we moved into this property. This room and the other room were, well, they were hip deep in rubbish really. It was horribly depressing. Old abandoned furniture and just several previous owners' personal effects, Betamax videotapes rotting, a lot of stuff rotting, a lot of places for rats and mice to live, some of the biggest, ugliest spiders I've ever seen. And I like spiders, but I don't know, the whole thing just felt like a bit of a bad dream, to be honest. And it was probably about 6 months' work to get everything cleared out. I would sort of call it decontamination, really. So yeah, it's been a bit of a long journey to get to this stage, but we moved here to, well, I moved here really to build this aeroplane, in a sense, because of this space. So it's up to me to make sure it's fit for purpose, and I'm doing that. So hopefully that's good enough. So yeah, so onwards really. I've done one rib, two ribs. I've done 2 ribs. This one's work in progress. Suddenly felt the urge to try and document something. I'm going to work my way through the ribs testing each gusset, initialing and dating it. As I say, it might be overcooking it, but I don't care. It's I want to know that I've done every one. And then having done that, I'm going to move on to, I do have some of the underneath here is actually a rudder, believe it or not. I think it's the rudder. Yes, that's a rudder. I've got a certain number of fairly substantial sub-assemblies that have already been put together in the greater part, so I'm going to do the same thing for those and work my way around them, checking all the joints for integrity, working out which elements of those larger bits need to have more work done on them. But I think a lot of them are actually fairly close to completion in a way, which would be really good, because then I can go to my build file and no, I'm not going to make the same mistake I did before and reveal personal information again. No, okay, right, I think that's all right. I haven't got any addresses on there. It's the devil's own job to pixelate that stuff out. So we do have a number of boxes here, things to tick off. Rudder before skinning, fittings attached, check dimensions, gluing and quality. Tailplane before gluing, top skin, but include gluing of bottom skin, fittings attached, check dimensions, gluing, quality, elevator, etc. So, you know, there's a few here that could, well, it may not be many months before they might be signed off. Ailerons before leading edge skin applied for dimensions, gluing and quality. That's worth knowing. But I haven't mixed a single pot of glue yet, so there's I've got a load to learn. I've got to work out how even to get hold of materials. I have a supplier of materials, but the way I would do it naturally would be to buy materials as I go, but I think that's going to be ruinously expensive and completely stupid. So I'm going to have to go through and try and build up some kind of a cutting list, really, of all the things that I need, or I think I'm going to need, which feels a bit daunting at this stage, if I'm quite honest. And also things like skinning the front, leading edge of the ailerons, you're pushing plywood around that kind of a corner and scalloping the back edge and making it all nice and, well, building it to a level of quality that lives up to the build quality of the parts that I have already that were sold to me, is going to be quite a task, I think. So, but I suppose that's what you get when you try and do something like this. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it, and the skies would be a busier place than they are. So that's the end of this. I suppose this is the first episode of the Turbulent build vlog, if that's not too grand a term. I'll get back to doing what I was doing, attempting to pull off gussets and then initialing them when they don't move. And I will, when I get to the next stage, I'll produce some more of this slightly wobbly footage. Okay, thanks very much. See you in the next one, I suppose. Just as a bit of an epilogue to the last one, I thought I might just demonstrate how I'm actually checking these gussets to see if they're any good, in a way that hopefully will result in my children not getting their life insurance payout too soon. Essentially just getting a finger underneath see where the gusset meets the what is this part called? Rib, member, brace, not sure. element, I'd probably call it. But yeah, just getting a finger in there and just giving it a firm but gentle tug, kind of encouraging it to break if it's going to break out. I mean, all the joints I've checked so far have been absolutely rock solid and really strong. So that's reassuring. Yeah, I'm just trying to remember when this. Some of the parts have been signed. I think they were mid-90s. So God, that's a long time ago. Mid-90s, 2000. God, that's not 25 years ago, is it? Is it? 90s, 2000. 5 years, 2020. Oh my God. It's okay. So yeah, 25 years old. And still, as far as I can tell, in very good shape. So there we are. Yeah, so I was just contemplating trying to do some kind of time-lapse thing then, but I think that might be that might be a little bit ambitious for this particular individual's YouTubing capability at this stage. I think, and it would probably be pretty boring anyway, or even more boring. So yeah, I won't do that. But anyway, that is I'll stop saying anyway. That is where I'm at, and I will produce another vlog for very few people to watch when, as I said before, when something else interesting happens, which will probably be the next time that I'm actually doing some work on the aircraft. Okay, thanks very much. See you later.